Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Before we get into this video, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The Alhambra. Wow. Look at this beautiful building. Now this is a mosque. This mosque is in Spain. This mosque was built by the Muslims who invaded Spain in 711. Naturally, the invaders, they're going to come and build up the land that they just invaded. This is one of the pieces of architecture that they built. Boy, is this a beautiful building. Let's take a look at the Alhambra. Look at the waterfall inside this. It's beautiful. Look at this pool. Look at the reflection of the pool. It's like a mirror. These people who built this, they were masters at architecture. Look at the lions. Who built the Alhambra? Now this is a question that we're going to see if we can find an answer to. Now I'm not going to read this whole passage. You guys can pause the video and read it, but I'll start. Many of the arts and letters of polished upper-class life continued in local centers like Granada, long after the Moors lost control of the area. The Moors built in Granada what is considered one of the greatest known works of architecture and art, the Castle Alhambra. Okay. So I posed the question, and now we have an answer to the question. The Moors, in fact, built the Granada. The Alhambra is the famous Red Palace built by the Moors in Granada in the 14th century. Its court of lions is particularly impressive. Once again, the question is answered. The Moors built the Alhambra. Again, I'm not going to read this whole passage. You guys can pause the video and read it. But I'll start at, and on January 6, 4 days after the formal surrender, the Moors surrendered to the Christians. The Christians beat them up, so they had to surrender. Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castle rode into the citadel and took the keys of the Alhambra, the marvel of Moorish architecture. So this is telling you there was a war, Christians versus Muslims, Christians versus Moors, and the Moors unfortunately lost. So after losing that war, they had to turn over the keys to the very building, the Alhambra. And it's being depicted here as Moorish architecture. Now the Alhambra is one of the most famous pieces of architecture that the Moors built in that time period. It's a heck of a building. It's beautiful. Alhambra, Nazareth palaces, painting on the ceiling depicting 10 Nazareth kings. So this painting is in the ceiling of the very Alhambra that we've been speaking of. This is 10 kings. These are 10 Moorish kings. These are the actual people and the descendants of the people who built the Alhambra. When they built this building, They painted themselves on the ceiling of the building. They painted themselves for the world to see for centuries to come. So we don't have to guess what the Moors look like. No, we don't have to guess. They painted themselves on the very ceiling of the Alhambra. We read that the Moors were the ones that built the Alhambra, but these are the people who built it. They painted themselves in the ceiling. Now let's take a closer look at these Moorish kings. These are 10 Moorish kings. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 Moorish kings. Now one of these kings, I believe is this one, was the king that was ruling at the time when the actual building was constructed. The rest are kings of the past, the descendants of the kings. These are Nazareth kings. These are Moorish kings. These are the Moors. These are the very Muslims who invaded Spain in 711. They invaded Spain and inhabited Spain for almost 800 years before the Christians finally beat them and expelled them from Spain in 1492. These are the people right here. We don't have to guess what the Moors look like. No, we don't. They painted themselves in the ceiling of one of the biggest mosques that they built at the time. They painted themselves for everyone to come and see. So we don't have to guess and say, hey, I wonder what those Moors look like, those Moors that invaded Spain. We don't have to guess. This is them right here. Till this day, you can go over to Spain. They do viewings of this mosque. You can go in and take a tour, and you can see this very painting for yourself. These are the people that built the Alhambra in the 14th century. These are them. These are 10 Moorish kings, 10 Nazareth kings. Moorish Americans. Do these 10 Moorish kings look like you? Do these 10 Moorish kings look like they're kin to you, Moorish Americans? Now, the reason I'm asking that question is because you guys make the claim that you're the descendants of these very people. You're the descendants of Moroccans. You're the descendants of the Moors who invaded Spain in 711. Well, these are the Moors. These are what the Moors look like that invaded Spain in 711. Now, one thing I notice here is that none of these Moorish kings have on fezzes. Moorish American, where are the fezzes of these Moorish kings? I see you guys have your fezzes on. You guys have on your fezzes, but these Moorish kings, they don't have on fezzes. Now you guys need to ask yourselves this question. Am I really descendants of these people? Now, Moorish Americans, I get it. You guys are suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. Your ancestors' identities were stripped from them. So you know not who your ancestors really are. You guys read the history of the Moors that invaded Spain, and you liked it. So you then wanted to attach yourself to it. You wanted to claim that identity for yourselves. It's not right. It's not the answer. That's not how you find who you are, by just claiming to be descendants of some people that you liked historically. Now I get it. You guys don't want to be associated with the Negro history because that history is skewed. Negro history, they don't teach you nothing but slavery. Negro history starts in slavery, and I get it. You guys don't want to be connected to a history that starts in slavery. But to just cherry pick a group of people and say you're descendants of them, it's not the right answer. Because as you can see, Moorish Americans, you guys don't look like these Moors. Now these are the Moors that invaded Spain. This is what they look like. They left their pictures for the world to see for thousands of years to come. Now, when you guys make these claims, I don't know if you know it or not, but the rest of the world does not agree with you. They do not agree that you are descendants of these Moors that invaded Spain. Alhambra, Nazareth Palace, painting on the ceiling depicting fighting and hunting scenes. Now this is another painting that they painted in the ceiling of the Alhambra. Here's a closer look at it. I don't see any Moors in this picture that look like you Moorish Americans either. Why don't the people that you're saying you're descended from, why don't they look like you? Moorish Americans, you guys have some soul searching to do. You have some research to do. Now, the Moors that invaded Spain in 711 and inhabited the land up until 1492 when they were expelled, we don't need to guess what they look like because they left it for us to see. These are them. These are the Moors that invaded Spain in 711.